Hello everyone, this is LazyDev, your iOS development journey companion. Okay guys, so now we've created our endpoints in our request, and the endpoints in our is implementing our request. So now the next thing is to create a network request manager, which is the most important thing. So now we've made it very easier. So with this, we can get our generic request with this endpoint in, and you can achieve a generic request you want. So let's go ahead and create a new Swift file. So here a Swift file, and let's give it a name. Let's say network manager. Sure, hope I spelled it out correct. Yeah, sure. Network manager. Okay, so in here we create a class. Yeah, so inside this function you have a function called requests, which would be a generic request. Yeah, so let me explain. So these are requests. Actually, a request will take two parameters. Actually, there are three. So the return type, then the endpoint in and we created, then our params. So the params could be query or body params. Yeah, okay. So before, as I stated earlier, we are using combine, so we need to import combine. We need to import our combine, so we didn't have any issues. Okay, so then we do the return type, which is a generic type, so of a type T, which is also of a type codable. So these are return type. Our return type is generic. We are not returning a concrete type. Yeah, so then we have another parameter, which is the endpoint. It's endpoint, which will be of the type our endpoint in we created. Yeah, where are you? Sure. Then our params data, which will be of the params type we created in here. Where is it? Yeah, this our custom type we created. So our params will be of a type of that. Yeah, so I think these are the two parameters we need. And yes, we need to make our params data optional because we would be doing calls that you don't necessarily need to pass any parameter, so non-param requests. Yeah, so we need to make it an optional. Then of course we return any publisher. That's where the combine comes in, and the return type, which is of the T we created there. Then we return our error. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this actually our request. So I have our request function, and the return type is generic, and we are taking two parameters, which are the endpoint enum as a parameter, then the body params. So wherever you are using this, when you call the function, you just need to provide the enum type, then the params, because the params is optional. When you are using for non params requests, you could leave that out. Yeah, so now let's go ahead, and first we need to create a URL request. Yes, so we need to create a URL request, and in doing this, we'd actually use the endpoint. So let's actually create a variable for it. So let's say var request, which, yes, so URL requests, and we'll be picking from a URL, and this URL will be our this endpoint dot URL. So if you go back, you could see these are endpoints. You have a property URL, so we're actually picking it from here. Yes, so we're picking this property. That's the URL we are passing to it. Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry with the return. When we are done, we will return, actually return. So yeah, don't worry about the cry now. So now we need our HTTP method. So this, we need to set our HTTP method to the request. So request dot HTTP method. Then you say our endpoint dot the HTTP method we've created. Well, this is the name I gave. Let's go and change the name. Let's go and change the name. Oh, yeah, sure. Let's change the name. Oh, I wish you guys could talk so. Well, never mind. Funny them. So we want to get the value. So the value, the raw value, we want to get a string. Yeah. So now we've done two things. So now we are using those properties. So now we've used the URL and now we've set the HTTP method. Now the next thing to do is to work on the JSON encoder on the boolean. So we will do a check here. If it's true, then meaning we are sending a body params, and if it is false, then we are using the query params, then meaning the request is actually using the query params. Then we would pass these params to it. So wherever you are calling this, we just supply the params. But in here, we do the check it. So let's go ahead and do our condition. So we say if this are boolean, this endpoints dot this are boolean. So if it's true, so you say if let's, so we declare variable, let's say, sorry, parameters, because these are params data dot let body, another, declare another variable body data, because try, then these are JSON encoder, sorry, JSON serializer dot data. Yeah, so then we pass this our parameters to it. Yeah, I think it takes another parameter which is optional. Yeah, actually not using it though, so just leave empty array. Yeah, so in here then we will set our HTTP body, yeah, to this body data. We are setting the body data to the request dot HTTP body. So yeah, so in here is where we send our JSON data. So if it's false, then we enter into this block, meaning we are doing a query param. So then we declare a variable for our URL component, URL, a param. So this one too, we need to unwrap it. So let's say params. We could say params. We declare variable, say params. That will be equals to params data. So inside there, then we say these are URL components. Dots, because it's an optional. Dots, the query thing, yeah, query items, yep. Because our params dot map. So we actually want to map on it. So we can set it to a query URL query item. Yeah. So URL query item, then the key and the value. Yeah. So our key will be the first element. So the $.0. So this is the key. So with this, we can also get the value. Then we need to set it as a string. Yes, as a string. The string shouldn't be an optional. So this should be an optional. Here. Yeah. So now we are done with our params part. So we've done three things: the request, the URL, the HTTP method, and the params part. Need to retrieve the URL from the URL component. So we also need the guardlet, because it's an optional. Because we did it an optional here, we need to actually get the URL from it. So we can say, so in here we can say our request dot URL because this URL here. So now we are done with this. Next thing to do is to set our headers. So you say the endpoints dot headers, which is an optional. What is that? Therefore, set the headers to the request. So the set value. So the value, then the HTTP header field. Yeah, so the value will be the value, then the HTTP header field will be the key. So let's see, value. Let's spell the value correctly. A value, and this will be a key. Sure. So the value we have in here. Okay. Yeah. So now we are done working on enums. So now we have a combine. We use the URL session. So actually return our URL session. URL session dot shared. Then the function, which is the data type. Then that will take our requests. Yeah, I will take our requests. Sure. So in here we need to retrieve the data. So map on it and get the data and the response. So use try. Actually using combine. So yeah. So try map. Then we do the data. So let's put this on the same data. Yeah. So with this response, you can check, you can do your coding and check and print errors if there are errors. So let's go ahead and continue. Let's go ahead and continue. So now we decode the data. Yeah, so the type will always be T with our generic, then self, then the decoder will be the JSON decoder. Yeah, receive on the main thread, main. Yeah, and finally we erase to any publisher. To any publisher. Yeah, I think this should work. Okay, try map. So what is it saying? The URL session. Oh, okay, no, we shall use data tags publisher. Sorry. Yeah, data tags publisher. So yeah, should be good. It should be fine. Yeah, sure. Okay, guys, so I think this is where we will end this episode. So before ending, let's walk through what we've been able to achieve in this particular episode. So we started by creating our network manager class, and within this our network manager class we have a function called request. So this request is what we'll be using in our view models for all our API calls. Yeah, so let's walk through this request function. So this request function, so with this it returns a type T. So we are trying to create a generic type, and this type also is of a type codable. Then this our function takes two parameters. One is the endpoint enum we created earlier on. Then it also takes params data, and this params data is also of a type params, and this is a type alliance, so or a custom type we created here. So if you could see it, so it's a dictionary and it takes the key and the value. Yeah, so the key is always a string, but the value could change. That's why we are using this type in it. It could be of any type. Yeah, so then because we are using combine, so we need to return, then we are returning any publisher, and with this any publisher we are returning the T, the generic type we created here, then the error. So let's move down onwards. So on line 15, if you could see, so we declare our request property variable. So it's of a type URL request, then we pass in our URL from the endpoint. So we are basically getting the URL from the endpoint, then move on to set our HTTP method. That's also we are getting from our endpoint. Then we use the boolean, the JSON encoder boolean here to specify the type of params we are sending. Then down here, then we are setting the headers, which also of course we are getting from the endpoint. So if you study critically, you could see that the constructing the endpoint is very important, and when you're able to get it and construct it very well, you wouldn't suffer here, and with that you can able to achieve the generic request. Yeah, so down in here, so we are using the URL session to get the data, then we decode of the type. So the type also the same generic type you created at the top there. Then the decoder is a JSON decoder. We are using the JSON decoder. Then in here on this line 44, we are running this on the main thread. Then lastly we erase to any publisher. So yeah, this where we bring to end this episode. If you are here, thank you for being here, and please subscribe. Please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification, and wait for the next episode. So in the next episode is where we'll be using this in the view model and try to make an API calls and try to show something at least. Yeah. So yeah, thank you and see you on the other side. Bye bye.